Hello guys! Recently I've been asked to shoot a video about Dostoevsky and maybe some of his works, and actually it was a great idea because I also love this author and I read some of his works. So I've decided to shoot a video about Dostoevsky and one of his most famous novels, Crime and Punishment. I think it is known worldwide, and if you are interested, continue watching this video. As I've already told you, it is very important to start the book with learning some information about the biography of the author, of the writer, of the poet. Or when you end reading this book, it's good to read something about him or her, because usually their lives and the author's lives and the author's books are connected. So today we'll also start with the life of Dostoevsky and some facts that you need to know that maybe will help you to understand why he wrote this book and just in general all his works. The life of Dostoevsky was very hard. He always had a lack of money. He had different diseases. He had to care about the big family, and also he had growing debts, so his life was never easy. So he didn't have enough time just to correct his works, make them better than they were. Take for example the year 1837.
During this year, his mother died. Pushkin also died. By the way, his works played an important role in Dostoevsky's life. He was really impressed by them. Moreover, Dostoevsky moved to St. Petersburg and entered military engineering college. 2 years later, his father was killed by peasants. And during his whole life, he would also lose his first wife and his brother.
And the last fact that is really important for us is that on the 22nd of December in 1849, he was sentenced to death.
The reason of it was that he was one of the participants of the Club of Petroshevsky at the end of 1940s, where lots of forbidden questions were discussed, for example, abolition of serfdom, press freedom, or some other reforms. The reason of Dostoevsky's arrest itself was that he read publicly the letter of Belinsky that was also forbidden.
So he was arrested, he was sentenced to death, and just a few minutes before his death, it was claimed that this punishment was cancelled and replaced by the hard work. So imagine this person, imagine his feelings, his emotions. I think that most people would just drive crazy, because he was ready to die and he held all these feelings inside of him, and he continued to live. I think he had like the second life, and after this case he became a true believer, and it could be seen in his works. And if you're interested in the feelings that he felt, then you can read the novel Idiot. Unfortunately, I didn't read it, but almost all his feelings are described there. So these are the main facts that you need to know about Dostoevsky from his biography. If you're interested in his biography, then you can read something more on the internet, but I've just chosen the most interesting facts that will show his life better. And now I think we can start analyzing, start talking about crime and punishment itself. And the first thing is just what this novel is about. This novel is about a poor student, Roskolnikov, who didn't have money to continue his studies on the faculty of jurisprudence, and he created his own theory, and then he killed an elderly pawnbroker and his half-sister Elizaveta, who was pregnant. And then, shaken by his actions, he took only a handful of some items in a purse, and then he hid the weapon and just went back home. And the whole book actually is about his feelings. So do not think that everything that I told now was a spoiler, because it is not. You will know that, you will find this out in the first chapter, and actually I think if you read the description of this book, you will see the same thing, because the book is not about the crime, the book is not about the murder, the book about a person who did this and about his feelings. So actually what this book includes. It consists of 7 parts. The first part is the murder itself, the crime itself. From the second to the 6th part, the narrator, the author, describes the punishment, the psychological punishment of the murderer, and he reveals all his feelings and everything that he feels just. And the 7th part is the epilogue, and it includes the revival of the man. So it is important to mention, I think, that Dostoevsky is considered to be the best author, one of the best author psychologists, because imagine how it is hard to describe the feelings after the murder, after the crime that someone committed, the behavior of this person, this speech, his actions, to show how the pressure put on him makes him weak and makes him mad to some extent, and at the same time make it all interesting, so you will read and feel the same things that are described in this book. I think it's impossible, and Dostoevsky did something that is impossible. So it is worth reading, because all his actions, everything shows the reader that he did something wrong and that he could not cope with this situation. The next fact, the next theme is connected with St. Petersburg itself. Dostoevsky loved the city because he spent a lot of time there, and he had bad times and good times there. But in this work, he showed not the best part of St. Petersburg. He showed it not a great city. He showed another part, another side of the city. He shows its misery, its cruelty, its poverty. And he could reveal it because he knew this part, because actually he lived in this part, in this side of St. Petersburg. And he didn't like summer most of all, and actually this season is illustrated in this book. And while reading, pay attention to all the details, to the whole description of the city, and you will not see anything good. Everything we see is dirt, stench, fog, unbearable heat, so it's awful. And also pay attention to the colors. There is so much yellow color in this book, and I do not know about the literatures of other countries, but as for Russian literature, almost always yellow is a symbol of poverty, misery, sadness, mental madness, crazy things. So it can drive you mad. And there are so many yellow houses, yellow flats, yellow furniture, yellow walls. So it shows that something unhealthy here in this town that can drive a person mad, that can make him kill, that can make him come up with a strange theory. And this also puts a pressure on the reader and on the citizens of St. Petersburg. And also it is important to say that all the places mentioned in this book really exist in life. It's just places in St. Petersburg. For example, Kukushkin Bridge or Kukushkin Most in Russian, it really exists in St. Petersburg, and it is the place where all this story starts.
On an exceptionally hot evening, early in July, a young man came out of the garret in which he lodged in S Place and walked slowly, as though in hesitation, towards K Bridge.
Okay, and the second place is Гражданская Street 19, Гражданская улица 19. It is the place where Raskolnikov lived. It is considered that it is this place. And actually there is a sign on this house dedicated to Dostoevsky and his works.
The house of Raskolnikov. The tragic fates of people of this area of St. Petersburg formed the basis to Dostoevsky for his passionate sermon of goodwill for the whole humanity. The Grabayev Canal 104 is the address where the house of the elderly pawnbroker is located. Also here, the Grabayev Canal 73, it is the address, the house of Sonya Marmeladova.
Another place is Вознесенский Bridge, Вознесенский Most. It is the place when Raskolnikov thought what to do next.
His post told the reader that he had an intention to drown himself, but then he saw the drunk woman trying to drown herself and he decided not to do it.
The most exciting thing for me is that the place where Rodion Raskolnikov hid his murder weapon really exists in St. Petersburg. So now I'd like to talk with you about the time when all these actions in the book happen. From the letter of Dostoevsky, we know that he started working on this book in 1865, and all actions in this book are happening during this year, 1865. We know that it was exceptionally hot day. It was recorded that in 1865, the 9th of July was the hottest day. It was about plus 31 degrees Celsius, and so now we know the first day of this book when everything starts, the 9th of July. And if we count, the last day will be the 20th of July. And according to the old calendar, the 20th of July is the day of Ilya the Prophet. And there is a legend that on the 20th of July, Ilya the Prophet drives his chariot and he calls lightning, thunders, rain, which purify people's souls who broke the law of God. So now we know how it is connected with Raskolnikov. It's like his soul was purified during this last day. That's why he went and admitted that he committed this murder. I think it's a great fact. It's a great detail that is important to know. When you just read, you think, oh, rain, great, something sad. But when you know this fact, you understand the book, you understand this episode differently. The next fact is related to Sonya Marmeladova. After her first day of work, she brings back home 30 rubles. And it's a big amount of money for that time. Just compare it with the money that the mother of Rodion gets as a compensation for her husband's death. She gets 120 rubles. per year. So it was quite impossible for Sonya to get such a great amount of money. And a lot of analytics think that the main thing is not the price, the main thing is the meaning.
30 pieces of silver is the price which Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus Christ for. So 30 rubles is the price which Sonya sold and betrayed herself for. Also, the sum of money was mentioned later in the book. The last 30 pennies Marmeladov took from Sonya to drink. 30,000 rubles. It was the price which Svidrigailov offered Dunya to run away together.
And the last thing I want to tell you is, actually, it will be the question. Why did Roskolnikov commit this murder? So of course there were a lot of reasons, like poverty, like popularity of the theory of a strong personality. If you remember the book The History of Julius Caesar, written by Napoleon III, was very popular during that times among students. Of course, his chosen profession, because he would become a lawyer and he wanted to reach fairness. But the main reason is his obsession with his idea. And you should understand that he didn't commit murder just because he was a bad person, just because he was poor. He committed mainly this crime because he wanted to test his theory on practice. He wanted to ensure that he was not an ordinary person. He wanted to ensure himself that he was an extraordinary person who is able to take on a spiritual responsibility of using evil means to achieve humanitarian ends. That's why he killed this elderly woman. That was the action to show that I'm an extraordinary and I can judge who will die, who is bad, who is good, who will stay alive, and I will cope with this. But he would not be able to do this. He would kill her, but he would not be able to cope with all his feelings inside.
The abstract from Raskolnikov's Superman theory. Newton could not on any account have become known to people other than by means of sacrificing the life of one person, the lives of 10, 100 men or even more persons who were trying to interfere with those discoveries or stand as an obstacle in their path. Then Newton would have had the right and would even have been obliged to get rid of those 10 or 100 persons in order to make his discoveries known to all mankind.
So that's all for today. If you still have some questions, do not hesitate to write them in the comments. I will try to answer them. And I hope that you like this video. I hope that you found out some new information from this video that maybe makes you read this book or reread this book, or maybe just think about it more deeply. So I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching this video. Bye. I think it all interesting. May shows. For example, Kukushkin Bridge, it really exists in London.